Yeah, Southampton people. Okay, so it is 23 minutes past 9 p.m. on the 18th of January 2022. I'm sitting in my car somewhere in southeast London. I'm not entirely sure where. I think I'm in a Sidcup, but I'm not really sure. But it doesn't really matter. Or maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe some people are interested in where I'm sitting. But I wanted to come on here and talk a little bit more about this whole thing about black men not liking black women. We talked a little bit about this on stream, and I was going back over what was on stream, and I'm pretty much going to be saying the same things, but I feel like I want to add a few things to it, so I decided to make a separate video. So yeah, I might be repeating myself for those who saw the stream, but hopefully I'll be adding a few things as well. So yeah, there's a video going around, a couple of black guys on a podcast talking about they don't like black women, they don't date black women, they're not down with they don't dabble in the dark, as they put it, they're not down with the LaQuishas and the Shaniquas, as they put it. So but the things, they're not the first to say that sort of thing, and they're probably won't be the last. There's many black guys over the years have said similar things about, not liking black women or preferring white women, preferring Asian women, and anything but black pretty much. And oftentimes the sort of argument I hear is that it's just a preference, it's nothing deeper than it's just a preference. Some people prefer this, some people prefer that. It's just a preference. And I think about that, and look, I ain't no doctor, I ain't no psychiatrist, I ain't no therapy whatever counselor dude or whatever. I'm just some guy on the internet that talks about stuff that he's most likely not even qualified to be talking about. But to my mind, I feel like it's you can't put this down to just a preference. I feel like there's something far deeper than that. I mean, if you got like two milkshakes, one strawberry, one banana, they're both milkshakes, right? But one tastes like strawberry, one tastes like banana. That's pretty much the only difference. I mean, without going too much into like all the details of, I don't know, maybe one has 200 grams of fat, the other has 202 grams of fat, or whatever, but they're both pretty much the same thing, but one tastes like strawberry, one tastes like milkshake. Maybe prefer banana, maybe prefer milkshake, and that's fine, right? They're both milkshakes, just prefer one flavor or the other. But when it comes to people, I don't feel you can make that same kind of comparison, like to say, well, I just prefer a white woman over a black woman, or a black woman over a white woman, or an Asian woman over whatever, a white, whatever it may be. I don't think you can make that same kind of comparison, because everybody is different. And if we have this idea that ultimately all women are the same, and it's just different, or you're just swapping out the palette like in a video game, like where you're creating a character or something, like you're just swapping out the skin tone palette, but ultimately just getting the same thing. It's like, no, I feel like that's not just a preference. That comes from something deep-rooted to even talk about people in that manner, as if you're completely ignoring their lives, their values, their beliefs, their feelings, their thoughts, their opinions. You're completely ignoring everything that makes them an individual, and just decide, well, the only difference is the skin color, and I prefer this skin color over that skin color. I don't think you can just put it down to just a preference. That attitude comes from something deep-rooted, to think about people in that way to begin with. I feel like, from what I understand of life and my limited knowledge, oftentimes these things go back to our childhood. Oftentimes these things go back to our relationship with our own parents. Oftentimes it could be linked back to that. I'm not saying that you had rotten parents and that means I don't think it's that simple, but I do believe that there's very likely things that happened during our childhood that somehow, whether directly or indirectly, have affected how we look at things in our adult years. And I definitely do believe that a lot of us are carrying around undealt with trauma. A lot of us need therapy that we don't admit that we need. A lot of us are carrying around things from our childhood, things from our teenage years that and I think especially with guys, well, maybe not especially, but certainly with guys, we generally don't like to admit that we're suffering in any kind of real way. That we kind of like to pull out this image that we got it all together and everything's great and everything's fine and we're nothing really phases us. But then the truth is, there's so much that we go through our lives that we don't really deal with, that I feel like by the time we get to our adult years, our 20s, 30s and older, things from that time, things from our childhood, things from our teenage years, the way they manifest themselves in our adult years could be things like, not liking women of a certain skin tone. And especially when it's like, as a black man yourself, right, to decide that every other race is better, or every other skin tone is better than your own. Like, even if you were to say, like, okay, all women are exactly the same and the only difference is the skin color, the fact that you are a black man yourself and you are actively deciding that other skin tones is better than your own, I mean, surely that has to come from something deep rooted inside that's just not been dealt with, some kind of trauma, some kind of, you know, maybe abuse or something. I don't know, but I feel like that has to come from something negative, something that's happened that just hasn't been dealt with, where there's been this association that people of a certain skin tone are just not worthy of love or affection or time or whatever it may be. Because here's the thing, I saw somebody say this where they said, like, your problems with black women are just that, your problems, you know, they're nothing to do with women. And I think that's 100% true. I think they are your problems that they're just not being dealt with. And then there's a similar kind of thing that kind of goes around as well, where, you know, people might say something like, you know, I like black guys, you know, I like to, I only date black guys, that sort of thing. And that's kind of a red flag for me, because more often than not, it means that they're not necessarily interested in you as a person, and more the idea of you, or more specifically a fantasy that a person has of what a black person should be. And invariably you won't live up to that fantasy, and then it's a problem. So I feel like when people say things like, you know, I don't date black women, for example, I feel like that has the same kind of, or it potentially has the same kind of thing to it, where is it really that you like a person, say a white girl, or is it just there's this fantasy that you have that you feel like they should live up to, and that's really what you're trying to manifest? You're trying to manifest some kind of fantasy into the real world. And I imagine it probably doesn't go well there either. You know, I feel like when people say things like that, it's not just disrespectful to, I mean, when people say things like, you know, I don't date black women, or I'm not down with this and down with the brown or whatever, it's not just disrespectful to black women. I feel like these things are disrespectful to just everybody, because it's effectively saying that you are a thing that I've decided is what everybody that shares your skin tone is, and that is what I am looking for. I feel like that's ultimately what it comes down to. There is an inherent objectification throughout all of it, and it's I feel like that sort of thing is just a massive red flag to not just the person that they don't want to date, but also the person that they do want to date. You know, that kind of thinking doesn't come from anything positive. You know, there's the thing where it's like, you're not just saying that, you know, you don't date black women, but actively disrespecting them in the process. So it's like, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of trauma, a lot of just undealt with things from the past that people, a lot of us, and I'm not trying to single out anybody, by the way, because I feel I include myself in this as well. Like, we a lot of us are carrying around undealt with trauma, undealt with you know, things from our past, from our childhood, that we just haven't really fully reconciled, and it manifests its way in different ways. And I think this is one of those ways it manifests itself, as not liking people of your own ethnicity and deciding others are just better for, you know what I mean? It's like, we understand, at least I hope we all understand that, you know, we're individuals. As much as we're grouped into different categories and demographics or whatever, we are individuals, and there are toxic people all over the world of all kinds of races. You know, if somebody wants to say something like, I don't want to deal with abusive women, I don't want to deal with, you know, negative people or toxic women, that makes sense, right? But then you got to understand that's not limited to one race. You know, there are people of all races like that. But the fact that you come out and associate negative traits with one race. It's like that doesn't come from anything positive, I don't believe. So to say it's just a preference, no, I can't believe that. That's like there's something far deeper than that. I mean, I'm not claiming I know what that thing is, by the way, but I just feel like for anybody who's like, it's just a preference, no, I feel there's something far deeper than that. It's like I watched this video by a lady called Tina Noir, YouTuber, and she was talking about something pretty similar, where she was talking about white guys who pay these compliments to black women, and how they seem to be getting like a lot of sort of praise and clout from it. And she was talking about her beliefs of why that happened, and it was kind of a similar sort of thing, that it wasn't like just a case of, you know, you fell in love with somebody that just happened to be black. It was more of, you know, somebody doing something because they kind of recognize that there's a I guess what was the word you could use? Like, it was a clout. I guess it was a clout. But there's something you can get from it that maybe gets you views on you know, TikTok or whatever it may be. That is not really coming from a genuine place of liking a person, and especially a lot of times it comes at, you know, disrespecting other women. It's like, oh, I love black women, I can't stand all these white girls who, you know, do this and do that. And it's like, the fact that you feel the need to disrespect people in order to praise somebody else, you know, these are massive red flags, right? And that again, I can't believe that comes from anywhere positive, to say it's just a preference. Like, no, there's something there. There's something that's not being dealt with, that I think a lot of us guys especially need to kind of take a step back and, you know, think about why we do the things we do. And actually I include myself in this as well, because in the day we're all kind of susceptible to these sort of messages, and especially if you live in a, you know, sort of Western society where, you know, we do see more images of, you know, white beauty than we do of black beauty or Asian beauty. We see, you know, so like how much of, you know, this is like just like social conditioning that we don't necessarily realize is happening. How much of that is from just like being subjected to a lot of these messages of what beauty is, that we don't necessarily realize that we've internalized that in some way. So I don't claim to be exempt from that. You know, I think these things affect us all in different ways, but I do think it's important to be aware of it. Like, love who you love, but if we carry these sort of trauma around, anybody you're with, you know, ultimately that's a ruined relationship right there. Anytime you go into anything with all that trauma that is undealt with, it just gets laid out on them, and they're just some unsuspecting person thinking of meeting this nice guy, and then all the trauma, all the preconceived notions that you decided that they must live up to, all the things that you decided in your mind that they need to be, and not allowing them to just be the individual that they are, that all comes out, and it will be your fault, you know, not their fault. You know, they're just being themselves, but the fact that you carry on all this trauma that you're laying out on them without even realizing, you know, that is on you. That will be on you. So yeah. Anyway, I think I've said what I needed to say, or what I wanted to say. Me and my I'm just some guy on the internet speaking about stuff. Maybe I made sense, maybe I didn't. Let me know what you think. Drop any suggestions, recommendations in the comments. Send them through, and I see what I can do. Like, share, subscribe, because we're doing this 10-year. Get me, fam. More videos on the screen. Check my other channels as well. But that's gonna be it for the minute. So guys, until whenever, if ever, peace.